Heyo, YouTube. Me and Mr. Sir here, we're out for a little morning walk, and I guess let's get the day started with what the plans are for the workout. During this week, they're supposed to be staggered, so one day you work out, one day you rest, one day you work out, one day you rest, and so on. I think there's 4 days altogether for this week. I'm going to go in today and do an arm day because I haven't had one in what feels like a month. It's probably only been a couple weeks. But I don't think that's going to affect my performance when it comes to doing squats and deadlifts. And I might just take it a little easier on the tricep work since we had a bench press day, which was pretty heavy. So there's some definite tricep fatigue is going to come from that, right? So we'll do kind of like a short arm day. It's probably only going to take like 45 minutes, but I haven't done really any bicep work or a very small amount of delt work as well recently, right? So, oh, hold on, buddy. 1 sec. Lift your leg. Good boy. He always gets the leash stuck under his leg, but it's happened so often now that he's almost trained himself on what to do to get it unstuck. So we just stop. I tell him to lift his leg. He lifts his leg, and I flick the leash right back under, and we're good to go. Like I was saying, a quick arm workout, probably more bicep focused. For me, I find I enjoy throwing in kind of a more accessory bodybuilder type of day, like arms and delts or something like that. That just keeps things interesting. I know for sure that since this is the first, I guess, real strength program that I've ever done, it ain't all that fun. For the most part, it's pretty boring, and I'm not always looking forward to doing the workouts that are scheduled for us to do. So, you know, everyone's got their own style, especially after you've been going for a long time. I've been going to the gym for, pushing 12 years now. So now I know that might not be a lot for some people, but after 12 years, you probably got a pretty good idea of what you really enjoy. So anyways, me and Mr. Dude, we're gonna go finish our walk. I suppose the next time we talk, we will be head to the gym. Okie dokie. So I decided to do a voiceover for this workout. This was kind of a simple arm day that I just threw into the mix, and I just felt a little, let's say, burned out with all of the repetitiveness with the strength program. So I found kind of a good spot during the program where I could sprinkle in an arm day and it wouldn't really have any major effect on my performance during the scheduled strength days that we have. So you'll see here just a very standard seated dumbbell curl. I don't do anything crazy or fancy when it comes to arms. The most that I do is I like to superset a bicep movement and a tricep movement, and I'll probably do a total of 3 supersets throughout my entire workout. And in the past, I've also included some delt work, so rear delts, side lateral raises, maybe even front raises, just small things like that, just so I can get in these smaller movements during my lifting process, because typically when you're doing a lot of work with squats, deadlifts, and bench press, especially during this program, there's only so many areas where you can sprinkle in these movements. And for me, putting in like rear delts, let's say on the same day that I'm doing squats and deadlifts, it just takes up space. I'd rather have a whole other day like what I'm doing here now, where I'm just doing arms and I can also sprinkle in some delts and some, I guess, unilateral movements, you could say. So you'll see here, this is my first superset that I'm doing. It's a very standard dumbbell seated curl, and we're just alternating, right? The rep range is usually from 10 to 12. I don't typically go any lower than that, unless I'm really pushing myself, where I might allow maybe like 9 or 10 reps on every set, right? But that's only usually the case when I'm trying to progressive overload. And here I'm trying to get in a good pump. So I'm not really worried about that here today. This superset will include skull crushers. And when I do skull crushers, I'll have an easy bar where I'll use my legs, you can see, to drive the bar up. And that takes away from me having to kind of like lift it up with my shoulders, almost like a front raise. I also like to bring the bar down behind my skull and then press it up and back. So typically a skull crusher is, well, it gets its name from the movement or the path of the bar, where you'll actually be bringing the bar down to your forehead and then pressing it up. So, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It works great, actually. I used to do that all the time. I just find that I get a better squeeze with my triceps if I do them where the bar is coming behind my head. So it's just preference, that's all, right? But either way with the form, I think will work absolutely fine. Now, moving on, this is superset number 2. I maybe took, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes between each superset. And here I'm using, I don't really know what you would call these grips. They're unilateral rope cable grips. I don't know what they're called exactly. Unilateral grips for cables. And you'll see I actually like to grab the rope part and then do kind of like a hammer curl. Similar to using the rope attachment and doing hammer curls that way. And then I'll superset this with tricep pushdowns. And now for me, when I do tricep pushdowns, I'm trying to bring my shoulder blades back and down together so I can create a nice stable flat back. And that'll also lock in my shoulders. So now when I'm doing this movement, all of the, I guess, weight and all of the, what's the word that I'm looking for? I guess all I can say is all of the weight has been taken into my triceps and I'm not getting any shoulder movement, right? So if I'm just bending at the elbow, then I'm trying to make sure that my triceps are doing all the work. So I find it helps if you lock your shoulders down by doing kind of like bracing yourself during a bench press, just locking your lats back and down. And what you'll notice when I do the hammer curls is I'm almost pronating a little bit at the top. And that's definitely done for a specific reason, because I want to hit a certain part of my forearm when I'm doing these. I don't do any forearm work really, but I find that it feels kind of good when I get a little bit of forearm activation by doing that little twist at the top with the ropes, especially where the ropes are kind of over my pointer finger. When I come up and I pronate, you get a lot of activation into your pronators for your, oh my God, I can't even think of it now. Whatever this is here. Oh my God, forearms. Jeez, I wasn't getting that for some reason. So yeah, I'm not taking very much rest between these supersets either. Like I did my hammer curls and then tricep extensions, and I maybe waited 45 seconds to a minute, and then I'm doing another set. And for each of these movements, we're doing 3 sets total. That'll vary sometimes. If I feel like I can push a little bit more, I'll maybe even do 4 sets. Or I'll do maybe kind of like a burnout at the end of the 3rd set, right? So forced reps, things like that, all great, because you really want to try to break down and tear up the muscle, as much as you can. Now, our last superset is a single arm dumbbell hammer curl. And we're actually positioning ourselves on, I don't really know what the name of this bench is. I think you could call it like an easy bar curl bench. And then this angle is a 45-degree angle. So that's all I got. I don't know what the bench is called, but plenty of gyms have them. And any bicep machines are usually done with this sort of pad where it's kind of on a 45-degree angle. And for me, I'm always going to the fullest extension that I can get when I'm doing these. It's number one, important for me to have good range of motion. That's just something that I prefer for myself. And I don't want all of the tension to be on a certain part on my bicep. I want to work the entirety of my bicep through this movement. So we go full extension. The weight isn't very heavy, so I'm not concerned about any injuries or anything like that. We just go light, and then we do as much as we can until, I guess, we get to a point where we're burning up. And then you know that you're working hard enough. Supersetting the single arm hammer curls with single arm overhead dumbbell extensions. Man, when you say these movements and the full word or the full phrase out loud, it's like, that's a mouthful. So single arm dumbbell overhead extension. And I started doing something a little bit unique that I haven't seen anybody do really, is I'll actually use my offhand to support my working arm. You'll see kind of right below my wrist, I'm almost holding my forearm, and that does two things. It gives me support so that it takes the load off of my shoulder a little bit. I don't have to stabilize as much with my shoulder when I do this. And I can also help myself do forced reps. And if no one's ever heard of the term forced rep before, it's basically when I can't push the weight through its entire full range of motion, then you get some assistance by someone lifting the weight and taking, I guess, maybe 5 or 6 pounds off of what you're lifting, and then you do more. So it's almost like, let's say you're doing 12 reps. At the 8th rep, someone assists you a little bit, and you're doing the next 2 reps with something that feels more like 30 pounds rather than 35 pounds. And then you do that until you get your full 12 reps, right? So it's a good way to burn out at the end. And I like doing forced reps here and there, right? Especially if I can assist myself doing it. That's great. Because a lot of these movements, when you're doing bicep curls or tricep extensions and things like that, it's difficult to continue with good form and technique and do forced reps by yourself. Typically, you need someone with you to either be pulling on the cable, lifting up on the barbell, lifting up on the dumbbell, or supporting you somewhere on your arms, right, when you're doing these lifts. So I find if I do these overhead extensions with the dumbbell, I can gain, I guess, a little bit more, not gain, sorry, I can do or put in more effort than I would typically only be able to do without any support, right? So you'll see again, I'm not really pushing on my arm at all here, but it's just the little bit of support that I'm giving myself. It just helps stabilize. And all of this weight, I feel right into the tricep. I don't feel it in my elbow. I don't feel my shoulder moving very much or taking a lot of the load. I can really focus on just pure tricep work when I'm doing these overhead extensions. So if you haven't tried them, give them a go because I think they feel fantastic. So yeah, now this is our second set of these. So far we did 2 full supersets. We rest maybe a minute, like I said, between each set that we're doing. And that's usually enough for an arm day for me. That'll get it done. Sometimes I think if you're doing heavier movements, like maybe close grip bench or straight bar curls and you're going heavy, maybe you don't want to do a lot of supersets and you might take some more rest in between because those are just bigger movements. They take more effort, but I like to keep the movement simple and try my best to just feel the burn in the muscle and really focus on the mind-muscle connection throughout the workout. I think it's an effective way for me to grow my arms if that's what my goal is, right? And for me, it's worked. It's worked pretty well. Now here you'll see I'm actually giving myself some assistance on these last couple reps. So I'll completely lift the dumbbell all the way up to the top, and then I'll slow down on the eccentric, right? And that's because I'm getting to a point where if I tried to force that, I'm putting myself at risk for maybe injury or something with my bicep. So we get to a point where we're fatiguing almost to failure, and then lift the dumbbell all the way up to the top range of motion, and then control the descent through the eccentric very slowly. And I find that's, like I said, you're just really tearing down the last fibers in your muscle at that point. Feels great. Yeah, feels really good. And after we do all of these supersets, you're really not that fatigued. Like, I can do all of these supersets and still do a bunch of shoulder work after this. So if you stick with the lower weights, something that you can actually lift, right, with good technique, and you're not compromising, like swinging yourself or using a lot of shoulders and whatever it is, right? If you really focus on taking all of the weight into the muscles that you're trying to grow, then once you go and do shoulder work, your shoulders are still pretty fresh. So you can do all kinds of lateral movements and rear delt movements, even front raises. Doing that after an arm day, I can definitely get in a full workout like that, and yeah, get a pretty good pump out of it all. And then here we actually did not single arm, but I guess you could say double arm overhead extensions. And I did that, and I think I did maybe 15 to 20 reps there. And that, again, was just to we're trying to burn out as much as we can. So now you'll see we're doing some rear delts here, keeping it simple, just nice and light. And all I'm focusing on here is squeezing. That's all. Rear delts are, I find, kind of an annoying muscle to try to attack. They're super difficult to engage, and it's really hard to hone in on that muscle without recruiting other muscles like your lower traps or your upper traps, and even some other back muscles to help lift the weight. Like, if you can do a rear delt fly and only use your rear delt, I'm super impressed, man, because no matter how many times I do these, it's really difficult for me to just work my rear delt. There's just so many other muscles there that are so overpowering in relation to that. So yeah, that was my arm day and some delts. We only did rear delts at the end of that day, but that was it. That workout probably took me 35 minutes maybe. And I find you do a workout like that, 35 minutes, you're good to go. I can't see there being any more need to do much more than that for an arm day. Maybe you could add another 10 minutes because you do some more delt work, but if you keep your rest times low, use lighter weights, really focus on controlling the weight, contracting the muscle, all these things. Like, these are ideas and concepts that have been around forever, and everyone's talked about it in the fitness industry. At least is where I didn't come up with all these points, or I didn't come up with all this knowledge when it comes to lifting weights and doing arms and trying to grow your arms. This is just stuff that I picked up along the way, and I've just implemented that into my own workouts, right? So yeah, if you want to have a good arm blast, go in there 35 minutes and do a couple supersets and you'll be good to go. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this little voiceover that I did, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.